This is crazy as the first round of the NHL draft has wrapped up and the Rangers were able to draft what could potentially be the steal of the draft in the first round. And a lot of Rangers fans are very happy. We're going to break it down in this episode of Rangers Digest. But before we do, a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. About 80% of you watching our videos are not actually subscribed to the channel. So if you want to do yourself a favor, the draft is this weekend. There's lots happening. There's chatter of Chris Drury making a huge move this week, and it's going to be really exciting. Hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with everything New York Rangers. And let's waste no time. Yes, the Rangers drafted EJ Emery, one of my favorites from this draft. Obviously, we're not talking about the top 10 because the Rangers didn't have an opportunity to draft in the top 10. There's a lot of good players there. But in terms of where I thought or who I thought the Rangers could get, EJ Emery was one of my favorites. I'm really high on this player, and I'm excited, and I hope Rangers fans are also excited. But let's jump right into it. Of course, the Rangers draft EJ Emery, a defenseman, right shot defenseman, 6'3". He's got some weight to him too. He can fill out a little bit more. He's still relatively young. They pick him with the 30th pick in this year's draft. Like I said, really high on this player. I really like this pick for the Rangers. And as you can see, in his time this past season, he played 61 games. He had 16 assists. He has a great plus-minus rating, and I know you can't put too much into plus-minus. I just want to say that right now. Let's not put too much into plus-minus. But when it's on the really high end or really low end, you can put a little bit into it. This is a good player, right? So like to see that. And, he's not going to put up a lot of amazing point totals, but this is a player I think the Rangers need. I think they have a lot of guys who can put up points right now, but a little bit down the line, this is a guy who's really going to be useful in the playoffs. This is a type of player that you win with in the playoffs. This is a really good pick, I think. I'm excited about this one for the Rangers. And like I mentioned about winning in the playoffs, when you look at his stat line from not only this year, but the last 2 years in the USHL, this guy is not going to score for you. If you're looking for goals, this was not the draft pick for you. But I think that's exciting, isn't it? I mean, we have guys, like I mentioned, that can score on the Rangers, who can put up the points. They're elite offensively. They can add things like that in free agency as well. And when you look at his point totals, like nothing crazy, but he's not here to do that. He is a defensive defenseman, and it looks like he's going to be an elite defensive defenseman. And a lot of the analysts on the broadcast, and I saw a lot of stuff on Twitter already about how this could be a negative for the Rangers and how he has no real offensive upside that he's shown so far. But I think, again, you can work on some of those things. And if he doubles down on the defensive game, man, there are not too many really good right shot defensemen in the NHL right now. This guy is exactly something that almost every team is looking for right now in the NHL. And not only every team, every contending team is looking for in the NHL right now. He is it. So you can look at the point totals and be like, oh, he's not going to put up any points or whatever. I don't think that's why he's going to be effective in the NHL. This is the type of guy that you win with. Personally, I'm excited about the prospect of this guy coming to the Rangers. This is a good pick. It is, right? He's a defensive defenseman. And I think Rangers fans are going to really learn to love this guy, right? And just let him develop. Obviously, he's probably not going to make the team next year. Let's not get too excited. But, when you start looking to the future and restocking the cupboard, right, you get rid of one defensive defenseman. I mean, one way or another, Jacob Trouba doesn't have too much time left in New York. Whether it's a trade right now or just writing out the rest of his contract, there's not much time left there. So in a few years' time, you're going to replace him with a defensive defenseman in EJ Emery. So that is an exciting idea. That is very exciting. And I'm excited to see this guy play because he's only going to get better. He's only going to get bigger. He's still very young, and what he does, not too many young players do, right? This is not something that they taught a lot of players, right? So anyway, this is some of the fan reaction too. Solid pick, skates like the wind, competes like a dog, big athletic shutdown potential. These are all things that a lot of guys coming into the NHL the last couple of years lack. And in terms of the athletic thing and the potential there, this guy is an elite athlete. They kept talking about it on the Canadian broadcast, how this guy almost won the combine, right? Like if there's any winners of the combine, this guy is the best athlete that there is, right? And again, you're not going to get skill points or points in the NHL for how far you can jump or whatever, but this guy athletically, maybe he's a guy at one point who can play like north of 20 minutes a night for your team, right? And can play in hard situations. So you have to look at certain things like that. You have to look at the intangibles like that. And I think in that way, it's a good pick. I keep mentioning it. I'm going to sound like a broken record, but this guy's not going to put up points for you. You have other players on the team who are still very relatively young who are going to do that for you in the future. And you have a lot of guys coming up. You know, Zach Jones too. Like players like that will eventually start making their way up to the main roster full time. And a guy like this, it's going to be a very good complement piece. I'm excited to see this guy play. Very good. And this is from Mitchell Brown as well. EJ Emery is one of the most impressive shutdown defenders in the draft. Lots of high-end elements. Angling, surfacing, especially stick work, and a contact game that's equal parts clever and overpowering, right? That's the other thing about this that I haven't even mentioned. Athletic, defensive defenseman. He is physical. He's going to fill out too, right? Like we mentioned, he's a big body. He's already 6'3", 185, right? He's going to get bigger by the time he makes the NHL full time. So that's really exciting too, right? Great stick work, great defensive defenseman. He's physical. This is everything that Rangers fans are calling for that they need more of, and you're going to get most of that now on the back end. This is what you need to win. We just saw the Florida Panthers beat the New York Rangers up, right? And a lot of fans are really upset about this. You add a player like this for the future, that's a good thing. Obviously, it's not a win now mode or a win now move, excuse me. But you know, when you look down the line and how you have to replace certain players when they're on their way out, they're getting older. This is a really good thing, I think. And if you look at some of these things, like some of his comparables and his pre-draft, stats and stuff like this, and this is great from Elite Prospects. The work they do is fantastic. His comparables, Brandon Carlo, and I mean, that's not a high-end comparable, but at the same time, you know, the Bruins have gone far in the past with a player like Brandon Carlo. Brandon Carlo was highly sought after at this year's trade deadline as well. The Bruins wanted to hang on to him, right? So he is the type of player that teams look for, right? This is hard to find in the NHL is what I'm saying. And if you look across the board, his stats may look mid, but this guy is going to continue to develop. He needs time to marinate still, right? Like he's still young. I like almost everything about this pick. This pick really, it excites me. He's one of my favorite players in that bracket of the draft. Obviously, you look at the top 10, top 15, right? But when you start to go after that, he was one of the guys that I was like, okay, if he falls to the Rangers, this is amazing, right? So really, really good draft pick there. And EJ Emery, this is from John. EJ Emery is a very good pick. I keep hearing Keandre Miller's name, but I think Emery is far more polished defensively, The offensive upside is my only concern, but the skating is very good and usage plays a factor. That's the thing. Just don't look for him for offensive his offensive ability. Maybe he can work on that and include that into his game as he continues to build and move to the NHL. That is a thing that can happen, but doesn't have that right now, and it's not necessarily a bad thing because he's going to be elite defensively, physically, all those things. Great skater. He says he models his game after Keandre Miller, which is great. He was really happy to be a New York Ranger. You love to hear all those things, right? So awesome stuff. And if you take a look further, if you just want to pause and read some of this too, it goes really in depth into his game, his style, stuff like that. So really exciting for the New York Rangers. Let me know in the comments what you think of this draft pick. Is there somebody else you wanted? I saw a lot of comments, everything all over the board. Rangers fans wanted a lot of different players. I personally am really happy with this pick. It's something the Rangers need, and I think he's going to blossom into a great defensive defenseman, a right shot defenseman. It's everything that people around the league are looking for. So awesome. It's a good draft pick. Let me know in the comments what you think. And if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with everything New York Rangers.